Hello, treasure hunting world. This is 1337 KTSH, home of the savviest scrounging scoundrels south of San Diego. I'm your host, Barack Leopold, lover of gold and expert on history. Today, we've got a special treat, a revered caller, certainly our number one fan, and also retired intelligence officer who worked under the Trump administration. Calling in, we've got Chester Boeing 747. I believe he's on the line right now. Hello, Chester.
Brock, this is literally my dream. Thank you for having me on. I've been listening to 1337 since I was, 72.
Well, Mr. Chester, it is an honor to speak from you. For those people at home who are unaware, Chester is definitely one of our top contributors to the station. He's got contributions, I think, upwards of $20,000. So, what exactly drew you to our network?
Well, see, in the previous administration, I was the, intelligence coordinator for the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. And so what I did was I would read Wikipedia articles to him daily. And one of the perks of that was I learned about the U.S. gold rush. And I found out my life calling.
So, just let me get this straight. So, you read Wikipedia articles to the president as your official uh, position in your as your work.
That was what I did every single day. I would come in and he would list generally just nouns or adjectives. I would look them up on Wikipedia with my computer, and I would then read it to him verbatim, probably 2 or 3 times.
Are you implying that President Trump had difficulty with nouns and adjectives?
I wouldn't say difficulty. He learned a lot about them. I'm just saying that he would normally just name a noun. So, like, Zimbabwe. A proper noun, obviously, but he would name Zimbabwe. I would open up I would type in Zimbabwe on my local computer, and I would then read it aloud to the president.
And what exactly? So you weren't so much an intelligence officer as you were what appears to be the equivalent of a third grade elementary school teacher informing somebody of well known things in the world.
Isn't that what intelligence is?
Well, I suppose in some way we all gain intelligence through education, yes. Although it is surprising that Mr. Trump would have needed such an individual.
See,
Uh,
I agree, but I mean, I'm still getting calls from the Biden administration asking for the same job, so I understand.
I see. Okay. And so when you were picking out these articles, was it just his particular curiosities, or were you working with him under his administration to prepare speeches? What exactly was going on?
I think it's quite simple, to be honest. Can I call you Brock or should I call you Leopold?
Please, yeah, Brock, Leopold, broccoli, whatever you want.
All right. Brock. What I would do is I'd come in probably around 3 p.m. after the president wakes up, and I would talk to him. I would ask him how his morning was. We would have generally orange juice, and then he would start spouting off words to me. Generally, at first, pretty slowly. He's still waking up. He's still pretty tired. He's, the president, so he has the right to be tired. And then he would list off words to me. So, like, I don't know, school bus. That is one that we actually talked about, like, multiple times. It was very interesting.
He was having a hard time understanding the concept of a school bus.
I don't think it was understanding the concept of a school bus. It was more like, now he knows exactly what a school bus is. Like, who
Right.
designed
Because before
this.
he didn't quite understand what a school bus was.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that you have so many facts you can learn if you do any sort of thing like this.
Of course.
Because do you know who invented the school bus?
No, that's a great point. I do not know who invented the school
Richard
bus.
E. School Bus.
Richard E. School Bus.
Richard
So
E.
one
School
of his
Bus.
middle names is abbreviated, but school bus.
Electronic, yes.
I suppose
Richard
that.
Electronic School Bus, yes.
So did they name the concept of school, the word school, was that also after his named after him, Mr. School Bus?
Well, originally, school buses were designed mainly to kidnap children.
I see. Okay.
However, schools realized we could have, like, so there are people who are teaching children, obviously. We've always been teaching children since the dawn of time. And so we realized that kidnapping children was a poor waste of their time.
Of whose time? The
The
children's?
children's, yes. I mean,
Okay.
the child's not doing anything, they're just being kidnapped. So they redesigned the school bus. And they realized, what if we used it to bus, being a plural for omnibus, which means all of us? So all of us will go to school. School being a place where we kidnap children so that they can spend the day learning.
I mean, I feel like most children sort of feel in some way or another that the public education system is kidnapping them.
I
So
I
that
understand.
kind of checks out. I'm inclined to believe this story you're selling, but you're saying that you personally have already known these facts, or you were just learning this for the first time yourself, also through Wikipedia, and then repeating it to the president at his
So
behest.
I wouldn't know every fact. Like I know you and I both know what a school bus is. It's obvious. It's a bus that brings school children to and from school. That's simple, but it's more the nitty-gritty details. So I could say I want to learn about coal, which obviously coal is it's just carbon. It's fossilized things that have been compressed over years and years, and so I don't know everything about it. So we would learn about carbon 6 and different forms of carbon. Sorry, it's been half a month since I've worked with the president.
Right, yes. And so you're currently unemployed. Am I correct in assuming that that is the case?
I realized at the end of the administration that my true calling was treasure hunting.
Yes, well, and that is sort of the reason why want to have you on. But before we get into any of that, I mean, I'm sure I'll never quite understand exactly what your occupation was, um, but you donated quite a lot to our station, and I just want to personally thank you for everything that you have done to support us and our uh, bringing the light of treasure hunting to the public eye and enrapturing hearts with new ex- uh, adventures and explorations.
That is
So,
that is true. I would like to thank you for having this opportunity. I know that before I worked with the president, I didn't know a lot about treasure hunting. I thought it was a joke, like in kids' books. I just assumed that treasure hunting was a joke. But
exactly, just like most of the people in the public would agree with that, it seems pretty silly. But we know, of course, that treasure is all around us.
every day. So, after I accidentally tuned in, the first time was accidental. I was going for 1340, which more standardized, but I heard something right in between the dials. Just kind of like how if you're digging, you might feel the hit of a chest.
Right.
And I knew that I found something gold. And that was your station.
Well, thank you so much. And what drew you to the subject matter?
Well, you would assume working with the president is a very rich and fulfilling thing. But it was both poor and unfulfilling.
That's surprising to hear.
Um, you see, much like the public education system, the intelligence communicator role gets tragically underfunded. I was making less than a minimum wage a day.
You were making less than minimum wage working directly in person with the President of the United States.
Every single day for 4 years, yes.
How much were you getting paid an hour?
I believe it was 7.25.
That's what I might pay my grandson to pick up uh, sticks from the backyard.
Well,
That's
now you,
ridiculous.
you see why I'm looking for treasure now. I've burnt through my retirement fund,
How could you have possibly even afforded to pay rent with that kind of income?
Well, beforehand, I was a big city broker.
I see. So you had a bank already. Okay.
I had a bank, so I currently am 78 years old.
78 years old.
Yes.
So you would already have been retired, even during
Yes.
your work in the administration, supposedly.
So
Not that I would assume.
I had retired, I think, about 15 years ago. Yes, I was what 63. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so I spent the first 10 years of my retirement until tragically my wife Amelia, Boeing 747, died. Um, and I realized I was getting bored, and so I went on to what's the website's name? Craigslist. My son told me about it, and I saw a position opening up for intelligence communicator for the president of the United States, and I applied.
Wow. And how many other applicants were there for this very professional and almost certainly should be appointed position of office?
Um, I remember two men walking in before me, but they were kicked out because they could not read.
Wow. Well, that is something, isn't it? Um, and I've always wanted to know this. Obviously, I'm sure that you're under a lot of the attention of a lot of different bodies that may want you to be careful about what you say about your work with the president. But I do have to ask, does President Trump know how to read?
Yes, he does know how to read. However, he can only read in Spanish.
Well, that is interesting. That is interesting. If
Yes.
he speaks fluent Spanish?
He doesn't speak it. He can read fluent Spanish.
Wow, more interesting. I suppose that does explain a lot. Or maybe creates more questions than answers. But I suppose we don't have time to go into that right now. Um, I did want to ask you very quickly your last name, Barack Boeing 747. Or
Your
sorry,
name is Brock.
my name is
I
Brock.
I
I
understand, Mr.
sometimes like to
Leopold.
superimpose my name onto other people because it makes me feel powerful. But
That
your
makes
name is
sense.
Chester Boeing
747.
747. Is this
Yes,
correct?
that is my
Okay.
name. Yes.
Chester is a normal name. I know other Chesters in my life, but I believe a Boeing 747 is a type of commercial aircraft. So what exactly is that all about? Are you um, what's the story behind your surname?
Well, my family was Danish,
Uh-huh.
and the word for family in Danish is boing. And so, as I moved, my ancestors, my great great, I believe it was my great great grandfather, moved to America from uh, Danish land. Sorry, I haven't been there myself. I'm born and raised Los Angeles, California.
Hmm.
But they wanted to make sure that people didn't know they were Danish because the Danes were classically oppressed. So they added the number 747, which was the area code in Los Angeles where I live today.
Oh, interesting.
So it's Boeing 747, but because it's been, passed down through generations and my family has gotten more and more American with time, it is now Boeing 747.
I see. So it was essentially completely coincidental. It is a Danish name combined with the area code of an area in Los Angeles. Is that correct?
That is exactly correct, yes.
Well, that is surprising. I suppose moving on, I do want to know though, what exactly drew you to treasure hunting as an endeavor, and how long have you been in the field, and what places have you visited in search of treasure?
See, since I found this amazing broadcast, I realized that if I wanted to come out of the poverty of working with the President of the United States, I would need to pull myself up from my proverbial bootstraps and put on some non-proverbial, like, legitimate bootstraps. And I went to beautiful, scenic Michigan.
Okay. How long ago was it that you decided that you were wanting to travel for
Treasure hunting
purposes of
purposes.
treasure hunting?
Yeah. I let's see, I was working the last 4 years, so I believe it was right about. It was near election time. Because I realized that if the president had won the election, he was going to ask for me to be his intelligence communicator again. And he said he might even bump my pay up to 10.30 an hour. Or sorry, 7.30 an hour.
So you were getting paid less than 7.30 an hour before.
I was being paid 7.25, yes.
Wow, 5 cent raise.
I know.
That's
It was very
essentially
generous.
nothing.
It was very generous of the president. And I thought about it for many days, but finally I realized, as a tired 78-year-old man, I needed to start treasure hunting instead.
So you've only been treasure hunting the past 6 months, is that correct?
That is true, yes. But I've been listening to this broadcast for, let's see, 6 years now?
6 years. Wow. Um, that is interesting, and we did get your letters, and I should say to all the people at home who are listening in who don't know, Mr. Chester uh, took selfies and sent us photographs in the mail, and it appeared to be pictures of you inside of sarcophagi, posing with mummies, doing peace signs, and you had a chest of doubloons or some kind of gold. It seemed like that you were showing off, and we've put them up all around our offices. We really thought that was so cool. And can you? I know you don't want to reveal too much about these locations that you find, but where exactly did you find this particular treasure?
Um, this one, while I was working in Washington, D.C. with the president, was a very simple find. See,
This was before you went full time into treasure hunting. This was during your
during
work
my
at,
time with the president, yes. So I
wow.
was I was freelancing on the side. So Mr. Trump was very busy. He had what he liked to call the Fox Hour. Uh,
What's the Fox Hour?
it was a 7 p.m. slot, 7 to 9 p.m. slot, where he always called in for KFC and watched Fox News.
Ah, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
And so he said to everyone there, no matter how important whatever you have to say is, wait until I'm done with my Fox and Friends.
Right.
So I would be free from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And
For 2 hours.
during that time, I realized that I had special clearings, being the intelligence communicator for the President of the United States. And so I took an after-hours trip to the Smithsonian.
Wow. Wow. So this, I mean, you didn't break into the Smithsonian.
Could you really call it breaking in? I have clearance to any building as long as the president says, okay, whatever.
And he said, okay, whatever.
I said, hey, can I go to the Smithsonian? And he said, I'm watching Fox and Friends, so do whatever.
I will take issue with just the fact that is it really treasure hunting if you're merely in invading the storage of somebody else's already found treasure?
You are literally describing most treasure hunters, yes.
That is fair. Uh, so, do you have any other interesting stories or tales from either your ambitions in wealth or your ambitions in office?
Well, I tried getting the president to pass a national treasure hunting bill that said you can dig into anyone's property if you believe there is treasure, but apparently that's illegal. And President Trump does like real estate, so he was like, as much as I want to dig for oil in literally every human being's backyard, I don't want people digging in my backyard.
Of course.
So I took it upon myself, and I started working nightly. I would spend the day with Mr. Trump, and then I would spend each night. I would scope out old treasure maps on Google Earth.
And did Mr. Trump ever participate in any of these treasure excursions?
He once saw me working, and he said that it reminded him of a coloring book he had when he was around 20.
A coloring book that he had when he was 20
Yes, it had pirates on it.
that he had done personally.
Um, I think he did some of the coloring, but some of the stuff seemed a bit too advanced. Yes.
Well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to be very curious to see if you've got anything that you can share about Mr. Trump. I suppose legally, of course, that you are able to disclose about his personal life or your uh, time working with him.
Um. Honestly, people give the president a wrong look. They do not give him enough credit. He's an incredibly intelligent man. He knows every single episode of Gilligan's Island,
Wow,
and he can quote them verbatim, word for word. I
wow,
remember coming into his office, I believe it was Christmas Day, and I asked him, "Sir, would you like to hear a word?" And he said, "No, Chester. I want to tell you a word." And then
wow.
he spouted off the entire first season of Gilligan's Island to me.
That that is interesting. And you, I assume, in the course of working with him, were able to learn a lot of new things together. Um, what was one of the more interesting things that you were doing working with the president?
Hmm. I think the most entertaining thing we did together was we built puzzles of national monuments so that he could keep up on his American history. Although all of them seem to be Confederate statues, but I think that is just who bought them for him.
Right. Okay. How big of a puzzle are we talking? 1,000-piece puzzles?
There were 16-piece puzzles sometimes.
16-piece puzzles of Confederate statues.
Yes.
Well, that's not surprising. Um,
There were also I believe we did build have you heard of a 3D puzzle?
yes,
We
yes, I
did
am
a
aware.
42,000 piece 3D puzzle of Robert E. Lee.
Wow. Would you say that he was particularly adept at puzzle solving, puzzle constructing?
He liked holding on to one piece, and then at the end he would place it in and say, "Don't worry, guys, I solved the puzzle."
So you would save, uh, you would complete most of the puzzle and then allow him to finish the last remaining pieces
Sometimes
that
he
were
would,
very
yeah, sometimes he would point out colors to me, and I would be like, "That's very good, Mr. President. Thank you very much."
wow. So he would say, like you would point out, like you would explain to him what colors were, or he
No,
would
no, no.
ask you
He
about
would
a color.
no. So I would have them on the floor, and he would say, "That one is gray. That one is green," and I would move them into
Ah,
piles that were called gray or green. He had a lot
right.
of buckets with different names for colors, and we'd put pieces of puzzles we were practicing on in them.
Interesting. Well, if you could just as a wrap up, I don't want you to disclose too much about the president's personal life, but if you could describe the character of the president in 3 words from your extensive time working personally with him, what would you say?
Fun loving, courageous, and funkadelic.
Well, you heard it here first, people. 1337 KTSH. We're bringing you all of the news in apparently very many different areas of life.
Before we
Well,
before we wrap up, I would like to tell you about my heist.
please, you have the floor.
So, this is why I donated so much money to this cause. It has been so good for me. I found a true gold mine. A real gold mine. Do you know how to become your own boss?
Excuse me?
To work your own hours and to make upwards of $30,000 a month?
Well, I am my own boss, and I do make upwards of $30,000 a month. But
Oh, 1 second. the call seems to have cut out. Let me just get that. 1 second.
No.
There we go. There we go.
I'm interesting that you're managing it on your end despite the fact that I'm running the radio station.
You see, as the communicator with the president, I now have to run.
It's all going through the Secret Service.
Yeah.
I understand. They are the ones with all the cables and the push and the pull.
And I accidentally pulled one. That's my bad.
Understandable.
I'm not that good with computers. That's why I was only Wikipediaing things. But I found out that the true way to become a real rich person was by joining Telemuna's Octagon of Power.
Excuse me? What exactly is Telemuna's Octagon of Power?
So, what he would do, Telemunda is a fabulous man. He taught me the way to become the richest man I could be. And so what he taught me was all I need to do to become incredibly wealthy is buy his product and then find people who will buy them from me and sell them to others.
This is sounding remarkably similar to a pyramid scheme.
It's an octagon.
It's an octagon scheme.
Scheme is, I would say, more like a business plan. So an octagon business plan.
An octagon business plan.
And I worked at the Pentagon, so I thought,
ooh,
5 is less than 8. So there
yes.
you go. Thinking about it, it's like I took a pentagon and added a triangle.
Right.
And now I have an octagon of power. And so I started making lots of money. And with my free time, I would vacation in the Indies mountains and randomly dig up dead people's bodies. And with the money that I got from those indigenous people's bodies, I was able to pay back my favorite radio station.
Well, we definitely have no qualms with receiving money that was taken by exploiting those susceptible to financial scams as well as the robbing of indigenous populations. We have no qualms with that, and we appreciate all of the work that you've done and contributed to both my personal bank account as well as the radio station.
I did transfer that. I believe you said small loan of $1 million.
I did ask for a small loan of $1 million, and that was to have you on the show. So your contract has been fulfilled. I assumed that we're still off air, right? None of this is going out. I assumed that we were just talking as people. None of this is going to be airing, right? Because obviously I can't say these things on air.
That's what I believe. Yeah, it's
Okay.
why I unplugged. It was, yeah. But honestly, thank you, Brock, for having me on. It's been fantastic. I've been using your, you've been sending me addresses to old ladies, and I've been just going and digging up their corpses. And it's really been making us a lot of money.
That is how most of our listeners actually. It's just grave robbing. I mean, essentially.
I mean, as a character from a game once said, it's not grave robbing if you have a college degree.
Exactly. And what most people don't realize is that there are billions of dollars worth of jewelry and expensive clothing that are just lying in cemeteries, not utilized by anybody. And you're going to tell me that that's some sort of illicit or illegal behavior? Well, I'm just going to say it's if there's no victim, it's not a crime. And this is what we say on the show. And this is why we have it as 1337, so that we can leave it sort of on the down low. Not many people are able to tune into radio stations that don't exist. So I do appreciate you sort of following through on our game plan, so to speak.
It is why they call it the Gamers Radio.
It is true. That is another name for the station.
Thank you, Brock. I need to get back to Mr. Trump. He's chilling at my house for a few days. He has been worrying about, I don't know, some legal dispute or whatever. So I'm gonna go and, I don't know, probably read The Hobbit to him.
Yeah, thank you very much. Uh, we'll have you on another time.
I would love to, and I will find the funds to be able to make it back to another call.
All right, take care now.
You as well.